The moment Erika Kirk walked into my courtroom with her husband, Charlie Kirk, she made it absolutely clear she had no respect for the law, for me, or for anyone in that room. She sneered at me, insulted my authority, called me just a small-town judge who wouldn't dare challenge people like us, and treated my courtroom like it was beneath her. She was charged with felony hit-and-run that left a veteran permanently disabled, and she genuinely believed her husband's political influence and their wealth would make it all disappear. But what I did in the next 30 minutes didn't just shock her. It taught both Erika and Charlie Kirk a lesson about respect, accountability, and a law that they'll never forget. If you believe arrogance and influence don't excuse crimes, subscribe right now, because what happened next proves justice still works. November 14th, 2023, Tuesday morning, Rhode Island Traffic Court. I'm Judge Frank Caprio, and in my 4 decades on the bench, I've encountered every type of defendant imaginable. Humble ones who made honest mistakes, defiant ones who thought they were above consequences, scared ones who realized the gravity of their actions. But I had never encountered someone quite like Erika Kirk. She arrived with an entourage that looked more suited for a political campaign event than a courtroom. Her husband, Charlie Kirk, conservative political commentator, founder of Turning Point USA, with millions of followers and significant political influence, 3 expensive attorneys from a prestigious Boston law firm, 2 PR consultants already spinning the story on social media, and a videographer recording everything, presumably for their podcast. Erika Kirk, 31 years old, walked in wearing a designer outfit that probably cost $15,000. Louboutin heels, Chanel bag, Cartier jewelry. Her hair and makeup were camera-ready perfect. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in her entire life. But sitting in the front row of the gallery, looking small and broken, was someone who represented everything the Kirks had apparently forgotten about. Ordinary Americans who suffer when powerful people act recklessly. James Rodriguez, 52 years old, Army veteran who served 2 tours in Iraq, Purple Heart recipient. After his military service, he'd worked as a crossing guard at an elementary school, helping children safely cross the street every morning. He loved that job. He loved those kids. Now, James sat in a wheelchair, his left leg amputated below the knee. His face showed healing scars from reconstructive surgery. His right arm was in a cast, and his eyes held the kind of pain that comes from having your entire life destroyed by someone who didn't even stop to see if you survived. The charges against Erika Kirk were serious. Felony hit-and-run causing serious bodily injury, reckless driving, driving while distracted using mobile device, leaving the scene of an accident, failure to render aid. The incident happened 6 weeks ago, October 2nd, 2023, 7:45 a.m., school zone on Benefit Street in Providence. It was a Tuesday morning, and James Rodriguez was working his crossing guard shift, helping elementary school children cross the street safely. According to multiple witnesses, security camera footage, and police investigation, Erika Kirk was driving her Range Rover, worth $95,000, through the school zone at 45 miles per hour in a 15 miles per hour zone. She was on her phone, live streaming or recording content, not paying attention to the road. James Rodriguez was in the crosswalk with his stop sign raised, helping 3 children cross. Parents waiting on the sidewalk saw everything. The children saw everything. Erika's Range Rover came racing through, never slowing down. She hit James Rodriguez at full speed. The impact threw him 25 feet through the air. His leg was crushed. His arm was broken. His skull hit the pavement. He was unconscious and bleeding. The 3 children he'd been protecting survived only because James had positioned himself between them in traffic, taking the full impact himself. And Erika Kirk? She didn't stop. She didn't call 911. She didn't check if James was alive. According to witnesses, she glanced in her rear-view mirror, saw people running to help, and accelerated away. Traffic cameras captured her license plate. Police found her Range Rover parked at her home 2 hours later. The front bumper was damaged. There was blood on the hood. She'd made no attempt to report the accident. When police knocked on her door, she initially claimed she hadn't been driving that morning. When they showed her the traffic camera footage, She changed her story and said she might have bumped something, but didn't realize it was a person. When they pointed out that James Rodriguez was a 200-pound man wearing a bright yellow reflective vest. She said she had the sun in her eyes and was focused on her content creation. James Rodriguez spent 3 weeks in the hospital, 17 surgeries. His left leg was so badly crushed that doctors had to amputate. His arm would never regain full function. He had a traumatic brain injury that caused memory problems and chronic headaches. He lost his job as a crossing guard because he couldn't stand for long periods anymore. His medical bills exceeded $380,000. His insurance covered some, but he was left with over $120,000 in debt. He applied for disability benefits, but the process would take months. Meanwhile, he had a mortgage, bills, and a granddaughter he'd been helping support. And now Erika Kirk stood in my courtroom, looking annoyed that she had to be there at all. Mrs. Kirk, I began and the courtroom fell silent. You're charged with felony hit-and-run causing serious bodily injury, reckless driving, distracted driving, leaving the scene, and failure to render aid. How do you plead? Before her attorneys could respond, Erika stepped forward and spoke directly to me, her voice dripping with condescension. Your Honor, and I use that term loosely, this entire proceeding is absurd. I'm a content creator with a significant platform. My husband is one of the most influential political voices in America. We have millions of followers, and you're treating me like some common criminal over a minor traffic incident. Her lead attorney, Thomas Bradford, tried to interject. Mrs. Kirk, please let me. She waved him off. No, Tom, I'm going to speak my mind. This judge needs to understand reality. She turned back to me, and I could see Charlie Kirk behind her, looking uncomfortable but not stopping her. Judge Caprio, I've done my research on you. You're a small-town judge in a small-town court in Rhode Island. You handle parking tickets and minor disputes. You have no idea how the real world works. You don't understand media. You don't understand influence. You don't understand that people like my husband and I operate on a different level than the people you usually see in this courtroom. The courtroom was dead silent. Even her own attorneys looked shocked. Mrs. Kirk, I said calmly, are you finished? No, I'm not. That man, she gestured dismissively toward James Rodriguez, was standing in the middle of the road. In any normal circumstance, pedestrians are supposed to yield to vehicles. I was driving through what should have been a clear road. If he got hit, that's unfortunate, but it's hardly my fault. And frankly, the fact that you're even prosecuting this case shows how out of touch you are with reality. Thomas Bradford stood quickly, his face pale. Your Honor, I apologize for my client's statements. She's under significant stress. Your client is under stress? I said, my voice sharp. Mr. Rodriguez lost his leg. He lost his job. He lost his livelihood. And your client is stressed about having to appear in court? Erika Kirk actually rolled her eyes. Oh, please. He's a crossing guard. That's not exactly a career. He can find another job. Meanwhile, this case is damaging my brand. Do you have any idea how many followers I've lost because of this? Do you know what this is doing to our reputation? Charlie Kirk finally spoke up, though his tone was only slightly more respectful than his wife's. Your Honor, with all due respect, my wife and I are public figures. We're held to different standards. The media has blown this incident completely out of proportion. We're willing to settle this quietly, compensate Mr. Rodriguez appropriately, and move on. There's no need for this to become a public spectacle. I set down my pen very carefully. Mr. Kirk, let me be clear. Your wife struck a disabled veteran in a school crosswalk while he was protecting children. She was driving 45 miles per hour in a 15 miles per hour school zone. She was on her phone creating content. She hit him so hard that his leg had to be amputated. And then she drove away without calling for help, without checking if he was alive, without rendering any aid whatsoever. And you call this an incident that's been blown out of proportion? Erika Kirk actually laughed a short, dismissive laugh. Judge, you're being dramatic. I didn't see him. It was an accident. Accidents happen. I have insurance. We're willing to pay his medical bills. What more do you want? What I want, Mrs. Kirk, is for you to show some basic human decency and respect for this court and for the man whose life you destroyed. She crossed her arms. Respect? For this court? Judge Caprio, no offense, but you're nobody. You're a local judge in a nothing court in a state that barely matters. My husband has dinner with senators. We have access to governors. We influence millions of people. And you think I should be intimidated by you? The courtroom erupted in gasps. Even Charlie Kirk looked uncomfortable now, though he didn't correct his wife. Thomas Bradford was on his feet. Your Honor, I move for a brief recess so I can confer with my client. Motion denied. Sit down, Mr. Bradford. I turned to the prosecutor. Ms. Chun, please present your evidence. Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Chun approached with her laptop, looking relieved to proceed. Your Honor, we have extensive evidence. Traffic camera footage from multiple angles. Security footage from the school. Witness testimony from parents and teachers. Medical records documenting Mr. Rodriguez's catastrophic injuries. And dashcam footage from a vehicle behind Mrs. Kirk that captured everything. She opened her laptop. The courtroom screen lit up. The first video showed Benefit Street at 7:43 a.m. School zone. Children walking with parents. The crossing guard James Rodriguez in his bright yellow vest standing ready at the crosswalk. The second camera, timestamp 7:44 and 58 seconds a.m., showed Erika Kirk's Range Rover approaching. The speed indicator on the footage showed 44 miles per hour in a clearly marked 15 miles per hour school zone. You could see through the windshield that Erika was looking down at her phone, not at the road. The third angle showed James Rodriguez stepping into the crosswalk with his stop sign raised. 3 children ages 6, 7, and 8 started crossing with him. Other parents waited on the sidewalk. Then came the impact. The Range Rover never slowed down. It hit James Rodriguez with devastating force. His body flew through the air. The children screamed. Parents ran into the street. James lay motionless on the pavement, blood pooling around him. And the Range Rover? It slowed for maybe 2 seconds. You could see Erika's face in the side mirror, looking back. Then she accelerated and drove away. The fourth camera showed her Range Rover speeding away from the scene, running a red light 2 blocks away. Parents were screaming. Someone called 911. A teacher ran to James, who was unconscious and bleeding. The 3 children he'd been protecting stood on the curb, traumatized, crying, screaming for the crossing guard who'd always kept them safe. Jennifer Chun played the 911 calls. A car just hit the crossing guard. Oh my God, there's so much blood. He's not moving. His leg, I think his leg is, send an ambulance right now. The car just drove away. It was a white Range Rover. License plate RKK 2847. It didn't stop. There are children everywhere. They saw everything. Please hurry. She played witness testimony. 5 different parents, all saying the same thing. Erika Kirk was on her phone, driving dangerously fast through a school zone, hit the crossing guard who was protecting children, and fled the scene. She played hospital records documenting James's injuries in horrific detail. Left tibia and fibula completely shattered, requiring amputation. Right humerus fractured, skull fracture, traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress disorder. Then Jennifer played something that made even Charlie Kirk shift uncomfortably. Your Honor, we have the actual content that Mrs. Kirk was creating while driving. She was live streaming on social media. The stream captured the moments before, during, and after the accident. She played the video. It showed Erika Kirk in her Range Rover, phone mounted on the dashboard, talking to her followers about her morning routine, completely oblivious to the road ahead. And that's why we need to stay focused on traditional values. Erika was saying, gesturing with one hand while driving with the other. People today are so distracted by their phones. They don't pay attention to what really matters. The irony was stunning. The video showed the school zone sign flash by. Erika didn't slow down. She kept talking to her camera. And Charlie and I are committed to being examples of responsibility, and then came the sickening sound of impact. The camera shook. Erika's eyes went wide. For a split second, You could see James Rodriguez's body flying through the air reflected in her windshield. "Oh my God," she said. Then, after a pause, "Okay, I have to go, guys. Something just happened. I'll update you later." The stream ended. The courtroom was absolutely silent. I looked at Erika Kirk, whose face had gone pale. I looked at Charlie Kirk, who was staring at the floor. "Mrs. Kirk," I said slowly, "you just watch yourself live streaming while driving through a school zone, hitting a crossing guard who was protecting children, and then fleeing the scene. You were so focused on creating content about responsibility that you nearly killed a disabled veteran, and you had the audacity to stand in my courtroom and call this an incident blown out of proportion?" For the first time, Erika Kirk had no response. "Mr. Rodriguez, please approach." James Rodriguez wheeled his chair forward slowly. Up close, you could see how much pain he was in, how much this had cost him. "Mr. Rodriguez, tell the court what happened to you." His voice was quiet but steady. "Your Honor, I'm 52 years old. I served in the Army for 12 years. I did 2 tours in Iraq. I got a Purple Heart for injuries I sustained protecting my fellow soldiers. When I came home, I wanted to keep serving my community. I became a crossing guard because I love kids. I love keeping them safe." He paused, his voice catching. "That morning, October 2nd, I was doing my job. 3 children were crossing with me. Emma, age 6, Marcus, age 7, and Sophie, age 8. I've known these kids for 3 years. I see them every school morning. They trust me to keep them safe." Tears filled his eyes. I saw that Range Rover coming fast. Too fast. I knew she wasn't going to stop. So I positioned myself between the car and those children. I hoped that if she hit me, at least the kids would be safe. He looked directly at Erika Kirk. "She hit me so hard that I flew 25 feet. I remember the impact. I remember the pain. I remember hitting the ground and thinking I was going to die. I remember hearing the children screaming. And then I blacked out." His voice grew stronger, though tears streamed down his face. "I woke up in the hospital 3 days later. The doctors told me they had to amputate my leg. The bones were crushed beyond repair. They said I was lucky to be alive. Lucky." He shook his head. "I lost my leg. I lost my job. I can't stand for more than a few minutes. I can't protect those kids anymore. Those 3 children I saved that morning, Emma, Marcus, and Sophie, they're traumatized. They have nightmares. Their parents told me the kids are scared to cross streets now. They cry when they see crossing guards because it reminds them of that day." He looked at Erika Kirk again, who was staring at the floor. "Mrs. Kirk, you didn't just hit me. You hit those children's sense of safety. You hit their trust in adults. You hit their innocence. And then you drove away like we didn't matter, like I didn't matter, like those scared, screaming children didn't matter." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm a Purple Heart veteran. I survived Iraq. I survived combat. And I almost died in a crosswalk in Providence, Rhode Island, because you were making a video about responsibility while being completely irresponsible." The courtroom was dead silent, except for a quiet sobbing from several people in the gallery. Erika Kirk's face had gone from pale to red. For the first time, she looked genuinely shaken. I turned to her. "Mrs. Kirk, stand up." She stood slowly, and I could see her hands were trembling now. "Mrs. Kirk, when you walked into my courtroom today, you insulted me. You insulted this court. You called Mr. Rodriguez's career as a crossing guard not a real job. You said his injuries were unfortunate, but not your fault. You said I was nobody, and this was a nothing court. You laughed at the idea of showing respect." I paused, letting those words hang in the air. "Let me tell you something about respect, Mrs. Kirk. Respect isn't about how many followers you have. It's not about who your husband has dinner with. It's not about your brand or your platform or your influence." I looked directly at her. Respect is about recognizing that every human being has dignity and worth. That crossing guard you dismissed? He's a Purple Heart veteran who dedicated his life to service, first to his country, then to children in his community. And you destroyed his life because you were too busy creating content to pay attention to the road. I turned to Charlie Kirk. Mr. Kirk, stand up. Charlie Kirk stood, looking uncomfortable. Mr. Kirk, your wife insulted this court and dismissed a veteran's suffering, and you stood there and enabled her. You called this an incident blown out of proportion. You suggested that your political influence entitles you to special treatment. You're wrong. I looked at both of them. In this courtroom, your followers don't matter. Your dinner invitations don't matter. Your platform doesn't matter. What matters is the law. What matters is justice. What matters is that a man lost his leg because of your wife's reckless behavior. I turned back to Erika Kirk. Mrs. Kirk, here is my finding. You are guilty of felony hit and run, causing serious bodily injury. The evidence is overwhelming and irrefutable. You are guilty of reckless driving. You are guilty of distracted driving. You are guilty of leaving the scene of an accident. And you are guilty of failure to render aid. Her face went white. Here is your sentence. For felony hit and run causing serious bodily injury, 5 years in state prison. For reckless driving in a school zone, 1 year consecutive. For leaving the scene, 1 year consecutive. For failure to render aid to a disabled veteran, 1 year consecutive. Total sentence, 8 years in state prison. The courtroom erupted. Charlie Kirk shot to his feet. Your Honor, 8 years? That's outrageous. She's a first-time offender. This is Mr. Kirk. Your wife nearly killed a man while creating content about responsibility. She hit a Purple Heart veteran who was protecting children. She fled the scene. She showed no remorse. 8 years is appropriate for someone who values her brand more than human life. Erika Kirk's voice was shaking. You can't send me to prison. I have a platform. I have responsibilities. My followers. Your followers will survive without you, Mrs. Kirk. Mr. Rodriguez almost didn't survive at all. Thomas Bradford was on his feet. Your Honor, we will appeal immediately. This sentence is excessive and... Appeal all you want, Mr. Bradford. The evidence supports every charge and every year of the sentence. I continued. Additionally, Mrs. Kirk, I'm ordering you to pay full restitution to Mr. Rodriguez. Medical expenses, lost wages, future care costs, pain and suffering. I'm estimating $800,000. Your influence and wealth won't protect you from that obligation. I looked at Charlie Kirk. Mr. Kirk, you came into my courtroom thinking your political connections would intimidate me. They don't. You thought your platform would influence my judgment. It doesn't. You thought you could settle this quietly and make it go away. You can't. I turned back to Erika. Mrs. Kirk, you called this court nothing. You called me nobody. But this nothing court just sentenced you to 8 years in prison. And this nobody judge just taught you that in America, no amount of followers, influence, or political connections places anyone above the law. If you believe that influencers and political figures aren't above the law, that veterans deserve respect, that arrogance has consequences, share this video right now, because what happens next will shock you. I banged the gavel. Bailiff, take Mrs. Kirk into custody. 2 officers approached. Erika Kirk looked at her husband desperately. Charlie, do something. Call someone. You know people. You, Mrs. Kirk. I said firmly, your husband's connections don't work in this courtroom. You committed serious crimes. You're facing consequences. The officers placed handcuffs on her wrists. For the first time, Erika Kirk's arrogance crumbled completely. She started crying. Please, Your Honor, I'm sorry. I didn't mean I was wrong about please don't. You had an opportunity to show remorse when you walked into this courtroom, Mrs. Kirk. Instead, you chose to insult everyone here. You chose to dismiss Mr. Rodriguez's suffering. You made your choice. Now you face the consequences. As the officers led her away, she looked back at James Rodriguez. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm really sorry. James Rodriguez sat quietly in his wheelchair and said nothing. Charlie Kirk stood frozen, clearly in shock. Your Honor, surely there's some way we can. Mr. Kirk, the only thing you can do now is learn from this. Learn that influence doesn't exempt anyone from accountability. Learn that respect isn't optional. Learn that lives matter more than brands. Within an hour, the sentencing was national news. Social media exploded. Erika Kirk's followers were divided, some defending her, others condemning her arrogance in court. Charlie Kirk issued a statement. "We respect the court's decision and are deeply sorry for the pain caused to Mr. Rodriguez. We are committed to making this right." The Rhode Island Court of Appeals upheld my sentence 6 months later. Their opinion stated, Mrs. Kirk's conduct was egregious. She endangered children, permanently disabled a veteran, and showed no remorse. Judge Caprio's sentence was appropriate and proportional to the harm caused. Erika Kirk served 6 years before being released on parole for good behavior. As a condition of parole, she was required to speak at high schools about the dangers of distracted driving and the importance of taking responsibility for one's actions. She paid James Rodriguez $850,000 in restitution. James used the money to establish a foundation supporting disabled veterans and advocating for stronger penalties for hit-and-run drivers. The 3 children Erika nearly hit, Emma, Marcus, and Sophie, received counseling. Their families reported that knowing James was okay and that justice was served helped them heal. If this story moved you, if you believe that influencers and public figures must be held accountable, that veterans deserve respect, that arrogance and disrespect in court have consequences, subscribe and share this video. Because this case proves something fundamental. In America, your follower count doesn't matter in a courtroom. Your political connections don't override the law. Your brand doesn't excuse criminal behavior. Erika Kirk walked into my courtroom with arrogance, insulted me, dismissed a Purple Heart veteran suffering, and thought her influence would protect her. I gave her 8 years in prison and taught her that in this courtroom, everyone, regardless of their platform, their connections, or their husband's influence, faces the same law. Justice isn't impressed by followers. Democracy doesn't bow to influence. And in my courtroom, respect for the law isn't optional, it's required. That's what makes America a nation of laws, not a nation of platforms.